You draw a neat diagram and you don't label it, it will not carry any mark. So here you need to, whenever the word differentiate or write the differences, such questions come, please write it in the form of columns. Don't write it in the form of paragraph. Be it abbreviations, be it examples, each and everything in biology is very, very important. Wherever possible, make sure that you write it in the form of points. Why? Because it will save your time. So that is the reason. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on the discussion regarding the model question paper that is for 2021-22 of first PUC Biology. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. We shall see exactly how the model question paper looks like. So first, the model question paper will consist of a set of general instructions. So as you all know, the time given to you is about 3 hours 15 minutes. Within that period of time, you need to finish answering all the questions and the maximum marks is 70. So where is the rest 30 marks? The rest 30 marks is the one that you have got in your practicals, because your practicals would have been conducted for 30 marks. So 70 plus 30, the whole first PUC, your marks for biology is 100, wherein 70 is for theory and 30 is for the practicals. So moving on to the general instructions. So here they have given the 3 important points for general instructions. Please read them very, very carefully. So the question paper, they have mentioned exactly what is the question paper, how is the question paper divided into. So the question paper contains parts A, B, C and D. It's divided into 4 parts, parts A, B, C and D. Here part D actually consists of 2 sections, that is section 1 and section 2. So though it contains 2 sections, that is section 1 and section 2, both the section carries 5 marks only. That is 5 mark questions will be asked out of it. General instructions too. So here all the parts are compulsory. They have mentioned that attempting all the parts is compulsory. If you need to score well, you need to attempt to all the parts. It is compulsory. Next, moving on to the third instruction that they have given, draw diagrams wherever necessary. That is important. Sometimes they'll just ask you directly in a 3-mark question or in a 5-mark question, stating that draw a diagram, draw a neat labeled diagram. But sometimes they would have not asked a particular question regarding a diagram, but they would have asked, describe the structure of the respiratory system. So what you can do, in spite of them not asking about it, you can draw a diagram if time permits, because it will fetch you good marks. So that is the reason. And drawing is fine. You draw a neat diagram and you don't label it, it will not carry any marks. So that is what they have mentioned here. Unlabeled diagrams or illustrations do not attract any marks. So whatever diagram you're drawing, let it be big, not like a small stamp size photo. Don't draw it like a stamp size photo. Let it be bigger, let it be neat, and let it be from a NCERT textbook. That is very important, because NCERT textbook, the government has made a textbook, right? So that everywhere uniformity will be maintained. So that is the reason you need to draw the diagrams from the NCERT textbook and also the labelings from the NCERT textbook. So if it is a 5-mark question, you can go in for 8 labelings, or if it is a 3-mark question, you can go in for 5 to 6 labeling. So labeling is very, very important. If you do not label, then however neat you draw the diagram, however correct your diagram is, it will not fetch you any marks. It will be considered a 0. So next, moving on to the question paper, that is part A of the question paper. So you're very lucky this year, because you have n number of options, right? You have 5 extra options for you, so that it is easy for you to score. Please make use of it, study well and make use of it. So here they have asked you to write 10 questions, answer any 10 question either in 1 word or 1 sentence. Sometimes it is a 1-mark question. So here Earlier, there was no choice given for 1 mark question. They used to give you 10 questions. You had to write compulsorily 10 questions from it. But now they give you 15 questions, that is 5 extra, out of which you need to choose only 10. So it is easy for you. And not just that, while studying, please go according to the blueprint, because the questions will be asked according to the blueprint, how the marks are distributed for each chapter that they have given in the blueprint that they have released for 2021-22. Go through that and study accordingly. Simply don't study blindly. Smart work is very, very important here. So either in a one word, so some of the answers just require one word. So give what is the scientific name of yeast? So there is no need for you to write the scientific name of yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. No need of writing a sentence. There you can just write it in a word. You can just write it as Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It will save your time. Only try to write a sentence wherever it is necessary. If it is not necessary in one word, don't write a sentence. So, or in 1 mark question, don't write a sentence. So that is about 1 mark question. So out of 15, you can write any 10. Next, moving on to, so 15 questions are asked here. As you can see, they have asked definitions, they have asked examples, some kind of assumption kind of questions. So all those kinds of questions will come up. So any kind of question can be asked under 1 mark. So that is why you need to be thorough with the whole chapter. That also they would have mentioned in the blueprint that from which chapter they are going to ask for 1 mark. So concentrate on those chapters if you are concentrating on the 1 mark question here. So moving on to the part B. So part B consists of 2 mark question, wherein they have mentioned here you need to write it in 3 to 5 sentences. That is important. So 3 to 5 sentences if you write, it is important. So here part B, as you can see, here again they have given 5 extra questions. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So 10 questions are given. Out of 10, how much you need to answer? You need to answer only 5 questions. Easy, right? Out of the 10, any 5 you can answer. Next, moving on to part C. So part C is 3 mark question. So part B was 2 mark questions. Part C is 3 mark question. So talking about 3 mark question, here you need to write it in 40 to 80 words. It is not that you need to sit and count in the exam hall whether you have written 40 to 80 words. Not necessary. You can even write it in the form of points. You can either write 3 or 4 points for that answer. That will also fetch you marks. It is not always necessary that you need to write it in a paragraph. And always in biology, wherever possible, make sure that you write it in the form of points. Why? Because it will save your time. So that is the reason. And also, whenever you're writing an answer, please make sure that you underline the keywords. Why? Because not all of us are good in language, right? We are not good in English. Not all of us are good. What will happen is you'll not be able to frame a sentence. So in such cases, when you're not able to frame a sentence, if you write that word and you underline it, then the examiner will not have to read the sentence. He'll just find the word that he needs and he will give you the marks based on that. So that is why please underline the important words. Keywords are very, very important here. So talking about part C, which consists of 3 mark question, here also 10 questions are given, out of that which you need to answer any 5. So 10 questions, out of that any 5. And if you have noticed here, 3 mark question again, say for example in question number 29. What have they done? They have divided it into 1 mark, 1 mark and 1 mark question. So like this they have divided. Question was for 3 marks. But see, 3 questions they have asked, 3 sub-questions they have asked. What have they asked? Mention the location of the following connective tissue. So you should mention the location of dense regular connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue and cartilage tissue. So if you mention all the 3, then you'll get 3 marks. You know 2 and you don't know the other one, then you'll get 2 marks. So that is how they split and ask. So it is very, very important to read everything that is there in the biology book. And here also, if you can see in question number 30 also, they have done the same thing. Mention the function of, they have divided into 1 mark here, 1 mark and 1 mark, totally 3 marks. Or they can ask like this as well. Answer the following. So answer the following, they have given here 2 questions. So here based on this, so with reference to plant development, state the meaning of plasticity. Here you need to write what does plasticity mean. You need to write the definition, which will fetch you 1 mark. Next question, differentiate between differentiation and D-differentiation. Here two differences under each you have to write, which will fetch you 2 marks. So therefore totally 3 marks you will get. So like that they can split. So sometimes reading from the blueprint is also good, but sometimes what happens, they might split the questions like this and that. So that is why you need to be very, very careful regarding this. So moving on to the next part, we can see here part D. As I told you, part D is divided into 2 sections, section 1 and section 2. So section 1, this also, it is all our 5-mark question. So here you can see they have given 8 questions. Out of the 8 questions, you need to answer any 4. So here also, if you can see question number 37, they have given 5 different questions. They have given the question as assign the following animals to their respective phyla. So this is 1 mark, this one 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you write the phyla of each of these, you will get 5 marks. If you write only the, only 2 and you write only 2, you will get 2 marks. So that is how they split and ask the question. You need to be very, very careful. And they can also ask the diagram. So say for example, they have asked here the floral formula and floral diagram. So floral formula and floral diagram is very, very important. That is, it comes in your chapter plant morphology. So there if you see, they have given 3 important families, right? Liliaceae, Solanaceae and Fabaceae. Those 3, please study them very well. Because out of the 3, any one will guarantee come for 5 marks. So easily you can get 5 marks if you study those 3 very well. So next, also they have asked the diagram of the elementary kennel of earthworm. So all these diagrams will be given here. So these diagrams, you need to draw the diagram very neatly according to the NCERT textbook, and you need to label at least 7 to 8 labeling. Let it be there. Section 2 of part D. So part D, section 2, again here 6 questions will be given, out of which you need to answer any 3. Here also they can ask the diagram. Say for example, they have asked question number 44, draw a neat label diagram of plant cell. And not just that, they can also ask schematic representation of citric acid cycle. So schematic representation, here also you need to be very, very careful. Don't miss the steps or you will lose marks. And not just that, if you can see here also they have divided the question as 5 sub-questions, each carrying 1 mark. Therefore, totally it is 5 marks. You can see here, name the plant growth regulators responsible for following physiological activities in plants. So, there are some growth regulators that they have given in plant growth and development chapter, right? That is auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin, abscisic acid, various are given. So study those properly, because out of those also 1 question will guarantee come for 5 marks from there. So that is why. So you can see here. So you need to write for bolting, which is the plant growth regulator that is used. For apical dominance, which one, and so on. So if you mention all the 5 correctly, you will get 5 marks. So this is how they have divided. So here also, if you can see, they say for example, here I told you, sometimes they'll not ask the diagram directly. So they might ask, describe the events of cardiac cycle. So describe the events of cardiac cycle. If it is a 5-mark answer, that theoretical part or writing part is only 5 marks, then don't draw the diagram. But sometimes what happens in some questions is the answer will be only for 3 marks. Then can they give you, right, only for 3 marks? Then can they give you 5 marks? Not possible, right? So in such cases, though they have not asked for the diagram, draw the diagram so that it will fetch you marks. So that is the reason why sometimes you have to use your own brains, think about it and then draw the diagrams in spite of them not asking for it directly in the question paper. So this was about the question paper. So it is very easy this time. since you have more number of options, so you can study really well. Scoring is actually easy. Next, moving on to solving. So today what we'll do is, in this particular session, that is session 1, this particular question paper that I had shown you, the same thing, we will solve the questions of part A and part B. That is 1 mark and 2 mark question. In session 2, we shall solve part C, that is 3 mark question, and part D, section 1 and section 2, consisting of 5 mark questions. So while solving this, because this will give you an idea exactly how you need to write the answers, how you can write it in the form of a paragraph, how you can write it in the form of a points, all that you will understand. So we will look into it. So part A, as I told you, it consists of 1 mark question each, wherein you can either write it directly in just a word, or you can write it in the form of a sentence. So here they have given define herbarium. So define herbarium, you need to write the definition, right? So here you can't use a word, you need to write a sentence. So that is how they have written. Herbarium is a storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed and preserved on sheets. So that is about herbarium. So likewise, you need to write it in a 1 sentence. So what is bioluminescence? About that also. Next, moving on to give an example. Say for example here, give an example for plant having epigynous flower. So what is an example? Anyone. Here I have written 3, that is orchids, asters and evening primrose. Anyone you can write. You can just write it in 1 word as orchids. No need of writing it as an example for plants having epigynous flowers are orchids. Don't waste your time. Here there is an option where you can put just the answer in a word. So write it only in a word. Next, here also if you can see, name the excretory organ found in cockroach. There is no need for you to write it as the excretory organ found in cockroaches, malphizian tubules. It will consume your time. You need to save time because you just have 3 hours 15 minutes, and drawing diagrams and all that will take a lot of time. You know that, right? So that is why wherever possible, try to reduce the use of excess time for unnecessary writing here. So you can just write it in a word, malphizian tubules. So that is how you need to answer. Like you have a cell is actively synthesizing and secreting proteins. Which cell organelle is involved in this? So they can directly ask, say for example, if you can see this question, that is question number 5 here, you might have noticed they have not asked you directly what is endoplasmic reticulum. They have not asked you directly what is the function of endoplasmic reticulum. But they have given an assumption kind of question here. What is that? They themselves has told that there is a cell that is actively synthesizing and secreting proteins, and they have mentioned which cell organelle is involved in this, which is that. It is nothing but the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Again here, in endoplasmic reticulum, we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So smooth endoplasmic reticulum means they don't have ribosomes on their surface. Rough endoplasmic reticulum means they have ribosomes on their surface. So which answer will you be writing here? You should mention it as rough endoplasmic reticulum. Don't just write it as endoplasmic reticulum and leave it. Because if you write it as endoplasmic reticulum, it can be smooth as well as rough. It will not give a clarity there. So ribosomes are the ones that actually help in synthesis of protein. So here particularly for actively synthesizing, a cell that is actively synthesizing and secreting proteins, that is nothing but rough endoplasmic reticulum having ribosomes on the wall surface. So that is why read the question paper properly. If you don't understand a question, please read it 3 to 4 times until you understand. Don't just blindly write. So this is about 1 mark. So here also they have asked, is the first person to have described the nucleus as a cell organelle. So here the name is Robert Brown in 1831. So no need of writing the year. If you forget the year, just leave it. Write the scientist name properly. Here talking about scientist name, write the correct sentence, correct spelling, because if you change the spelling, that may be some other person, right? So that is a time when you can lose mark. So that is why please write the correct spellings when you write it. Here next question, what is sympod? This is a direct question which you need to write, and name the element responsible for opening and closing of stomata. So here that also you need to write correctly. So why photorespiration does not occur in C4 plants? So in C4 plants, why doesn't photorespiration occur? What is the reason? It is the photorespiratory pathway. There is a number of synthesis of ATP or NADPH. Therefore, photosynthesis respiration does not occur in C4 plants. You need to mention about that. Next, they have given here define RQ. Here you need to understand, they have not mentioned anything, they have just given it as RQ. So you need to know what RQ is. That is why abbreviations also are very, very important. Only if you know what RQ is, then will you be able to answer the question. So what is RQ? RQ is nothing but respiratory quotient, which means you need to define about respiratory quotient. So that is why, be it abbreviations, be it examples, each and everything in biology is very, very important. So moving on to the next question, mention the blood group having both types of antigens on RBC. So what are the antigens? It is A and B, right? So what are the two blood groups that have both types of antigens on the RBC? It is nothing but O group. Here you can see they have just answered it in one word. Name the functional unit of muscle contraction. So that also they have mentioned it as just in one word, sarcomeres. So moving on to next question. Why the 11th and 12th pairs of ribs in rib cage are called as floating ribs? So here, why is it called as floating ribs? Because they are not connected ventrally, and that is why. Because they are not directly connected to the sternum. So that is the reason why they are called as the floating ribs. So that is how you need to write, whether in a word or in a sentence, depending on the question. So this was about the part A. Likewise, you have question number 14, question number 15. So 15 questions are given. Any 10 you need to answer out of this. So moving to part B. Here 10 questions will be given, out of which 5 you need to answer, which will fetch you 10 marks. So this section carries 10 marks. So talking about the first question, viruses exhibit both living and non-living characters. Justify the statement. So they have mentioned that viruses, they can exist in two forms. One is in living form and other one is non-living form. Why? You need to justify. How is it possible for the virus to exist in two forms? So what they have given here, virus is a non-cellular organism that are characterized by having an inert crystalline structure outside the living host. So it is not always necessary in biology that you need to write exactly what is given in your notes or in your textbook. You can put it in your own words. Only thing is it should be relevant here. Say for example, I can change this. I can change it into viruses exhibit both living and non-living characters, because viruses, when they are outside the body of the human host, they are in the form of inert crystalline protein structures. That is also correct. But here what I have given is a different answer. So that is why instead of by hearting, please understand and write. So that way at least you can change the sentences and make it easier however you want. But it should be relevant to the answer. So next, moving on to the next question. Mention any two commercial products obtained from algae. So here they have already told you, mention any two. Why two? Because if you write two, it will carry 1 mark each. So that is why. If you write only one, you will get only 1 mark. So agar, spirulina, chlorella. 3 examples I have given here. Any two you can write out of this. So here next question here, differentiate between endark and exarch xylem. So here you need to, whenever the word differentiate or write the differences, such questions come, please write it in the form of columns. Don't write it in the form of paragraph. Means don't write it as endark xylem. Don't give the side heading as endark xylem. Write a paragraph and then give the side heading as exarch xylem and write the paragraph. Don't do that. What you need to do is make 2 columns. In one end write endark xylem, other end write exarch xylem, and then go for writing the differences. So that is very important. Here 2 points are needed. So sometimes some of the answers will not have 2 points. In such cases, you can just give an example for these. So here they have mentioned endark xylem. They have written what endark xylem is, and they have given an example where exactly it is found. It is found in the stem. Here also they have written about hexaxylum and they have given an example where exactly it is found. So this will fetch you 2 marks here. So moving on to the next question, if you can see here, how do coenzymes differ from prosthetic groups? So here, how do they differ from prosthetic groups? Coenzymes, there are organic compounds which are loosely bound to the apoenzymes, whereas in prosthetic groups, the organic compounds are tightly bound to the apoenzyme. So that way if you write, you will get 2 marks. So next, moving on to the next question. The direction of food movement in phloem can be bidirectional. So substantiate the statement by giving 2 reasons. So what they have said here, they themselves have given a statement stating that the movement of food in phloem is bidirectional. That is, the food can move in 2 directions at a time. Now you need to justify the statement. You need to prove that the statement is correct by giving 2 reasons. What 2 reasons you will give pertaining to that? One is because once the food is synthesized, it is the phloem that transfers the food to all the parts of the plant wherever it is necessary. So that is the reason there is bidirectional movement, because of course food has to travel to different parts of the plant and that is taking place through the phloem. So that is why the movement is bidirectional. You write so much, you will get 2 marks here. Next question, mention the deficiency symptoms of essential elements in plants. So they have asked for the deficiency symptoms. So write at least 3 to 4 deficiency symptoms here, because whoever has framed the question paper, he would have put in mind saying that each deficiency you mention, it will carry half mark. So what will happen here? Half plus half plus half plus half. It will give you 2 marks. So write 4. 4 you need to write. So deficiency symptom include chlorosis, you'll get half mark. Then you have written necrosis, you'll get half mark. Then we have written here stunted growth, half mark. Premature falling of leaves and buds, half mark. So therefore 2 marks. So 5 I have written here, any 4 you can write. So mention 4 deficiency symptoms. Don't think that they have asked only for 2 marks and don't think that I'll write only 2 points and leave it, because it is not in the form of a sentence. Again here, based on the number of words, keep in mind the number of words as well. Say for example here, when you're writing points, that is, mention the deficiency symptoms. If you write only 2 deficiency symptoms, or you can write it like this: deficiency symptom includes, first point, chlorosis, second point, necrosis. The answer looks very small, right? The sentence is also not huge. If the sentences are very big, then you can write 2 points and leave it. But here the answer looks very small. That is why at least write 4 deficiency symptoms in such cases. When such type of questions are asked, right, wherein very less words are involved, write at least 4 or 5 points there. That is very important. Keep that in mind. Next question, write the steps involved in conversion of ammonia into nitrate by soil bacteria. So first here, write about the process of nitrification takes place with the help of some of the nitrifying bacteria such as Nitrococcus, Nitrosomonas, wherein they convert the nitrates into, by the process called as nitrification, and nitrifying bacteria like Nitrosomonas help to convert ammonia to nitrate, and there is one more bacteria which is known as Nitrobacter that helps to convert nitrite to nitrate. Either you can first mention the type of bacteria and then write the answer, or you can write it in 2 points. So this is in the form of a paragraph. I've put it in the form of a paragraph. It's not looking that good, right? So you can make one thing, you can write it in 2 points here. 1 point is what you can do is nitrifying bacteria like Nitrosomonas help to convert ammonia to nitrate. That is 1 point. Then you can write bacteria known as Nitrobacter help to convert nitrite to nitrate. Answer is got, because what was the question they asked? They asked the question, write the steps involved in conversion of ammonia to nitrate. If you write the steps, 2 steps here. I wrote so much to make you understand the difference. Now also I have told you how you can write it in the form of points. So it is up to you. Now saving time, right? You can save the time here. So instead of writing like this, just write these two sentences in 2 points. You will get 2 marks there. So that is how you need to write the answers. Moving on to next question. Mention any 2 disorders of human respiratory system. So here they have asked you to mention any 2 disorders of human respiratory system. Of course, they have asked you to mention any 2 disorders. You can just write it as asthma and one more is emphysema. But if time permits, please write what it is at least so that it will look like a 2 mark answer. So that is the reason. Here next one. Give an example each for ammonotelic and uricotelic animals. So those animals whose excretory product is ammonia, that is ammonotelic animals. Those excretory product whose urea or uric acid, they are uricotelic animals. So we have ammonotelic animals. There are fish and starfish. They have just asked for one example, right? They have asked give an example each. An example means one example. If you write it is enough. So ammonotelic animals, fish and starfish, any one you can write. Uricotelic animals, birds, snake, any one you can write here. So moving on to the next question. They have asked mention the types of synapse. So usually there are 2 types of synapses. Here also they have asked only mention the types of synapse. So enough of mentioning the types, no need of giving an explanation here. You can write electrical synapse and one more is chemical synapse. So much if you write, it will fetch you 2 marks. So 2 points you write, 1 mark for this, 1 mark for this. It will fetch you 2 marks. So this is how you need to answer the 1 mark and the 2 mark question. So this was about this session wherein we dealt with how exactly the question paper looks like. And also we came to know how we need to write the answers for the question, be it the 1 mark or the 2 mark question of part A and part B respectively. In the coming session, we shall discuss about how to write the long answer questions. That is for part C carrying 3 marks and part D section 1 and section 2 carrying 5 mark questions. So we shall discuss about that in session 2. So we shall meet again in the next session. Thank you.